Hi, and welcome to my Visual Navigator. Today we are talking about composition in visual arts. Composition has 8 basic elements, and mastering them will greatly improve your picture. In fact, every successful artist knows how to use these elements for his advantage. The only thing you have to know is that these are no rules. You can use them as you please to get what you want out of it. And you can use them in any kind of visual art. It doesn't matter if you're a filmmaker, a photographer, or a painter. Knowing this will surely help you to make the right choice. So let's dive in. At first place we have unity. If you are trying to make a picture, then make sure that there is nothing out of place, at least if it shouldn't be. If some element of the picture feels weirdly out of place, it draws attention, and that's destroying the unity of your picture. That means that it can't be looked at as a whole. There will always be this one part that draws your attention away from the whole picture. Now you can do that on purpose, but it needs a lot of skills to pull it off right. In great art pieces, even if the attention is on one point, the whole unity of the picture is still there. On the second place we have balance. You can balance your picture through many different ways. Notice that a more structured, symmetrical composition brings the sense of calm, while dissymmetrical compositions bring the sense of unease. This means that dissymmetrical compositions introduce dynamic values, and those values make the composition unbalanced. Now, you don't have to balance your picture through the sheer distribution of masses. You can also balance it through color or objects or shapes or anything that has a visual value. For example, if there's a small space covered in a bright color, it will draw as much visual attention as a bigger space covered in a medium tone. So putting those right beside each other will basically balance out the situation. And as I said, it doesn't have to be colored, it can be done with any kind of visual information. The next element is movement. You may think you can accomplish movement only in a moving picture, but you can have the sense of movement in a still picture too. And this sense of movement should be there in any frame of a film or an animation. So how do you accomplish movement in a still picture? Well, for the picture to imply movement, every element in the picture should guide to the movement. If you can make anything point to some kind of move, the audience will expect this move, and you can accomplish that with simple arrangement of your elements. With shapes and objects, you can make guidelines that point to a certain move. If done successfully, a spectator can feel like he can almost predict the move. And if we are looking into film, we can see that those guidelines are everywhere. They're basically pointing to every cut or every move of the camera or the characters. And in painting and photography, a well-guided move can also make us wait. But quite frankly, nothing is going to happen. Rhythm. Any song has some kind of rhythm, and pictures do too. If you examine any kind of picture, you can make sure if there's any rhythm to it. That means that you have to notice in which way visual information is repeating itself throughout the work. And that's even easier to make out in a moving picture. So if your picture has some good rhythm to it, it probably has a good structured composition. Contrast. Contrast in pictures is mostly determined as the difference in tones, but it doesn't have to be. Contrast can also be between shapes, between colors, between light, or between any kind of visual elements. And contrast is something that every picture has. So the better the contrast, the more things are going to pop out in a picture. And if the contrast is low, things are going to be more saddled or merged. If you want to highlight shapes or forms in your picture, you better use higher contrast. And if you want things to be unnoticeable and have more unity to them, you better use low contrast. There's a whole range of different contrasts artists are using in their work, and some artists are famous for their use of contrast. So knowing this is really important because you want to know what you need in your picture. Every picture has a focus, or as they call it in photography, a focal point. And if not, our eye starts to search for it automatically. But what is a focal point exactly? It's the point in the picture sticking out with the most visual interest. So you can also call it the highlight of the picture. But it doesn't have to be a point at all. It can be anything. Any visual information you can imagine can be a focal point. Even if you are looking at an abstract piece of art, you can find a focal point in it. You just have to make sure you know what you're looking for. Proportion. Proportion determines the comparative relations between things in your picture. It's mainly used to create an illusion of depth or size. So if your proportions seem real, the picture will seem real too. That's why you want to make sure that things in your picture are placed logically in terms of size or distance. If not, something will just feel off. Pattern. Pattern is created through the repetition of visual values. And while pattern can be really intriguing, you don't want to overdo it. And there's a good reason for that. Pictures with a lot of repetition in them get visually predictable. And when a picture is predictable, it gets boring. Watching the same pattern over and over again is just exhausting for the audience. If you want to use patterns successfully, you want to know how to break it. A great example of breaking down pattern the right way is basically any Stanley Kubrick movie. Notice how he uses repetition all the time, but his shots are visually intriguing. That's because he uses it in collaboration with all the other visual elements we talked about. Truly knowing and understanding composition will always help you to make your work stand out. So watch, think, and try to put everything together the right way.